I think this is just a major threshold moment. When Trump was just doing corrupt stuff, you know, just getting an $800 million jet from Qatar in exchange for being nice to them, or, cutting deals with countries that, you know, he would reduce tariffs on, but they're, you know, building Trump towers and things like that, you know. Trump has apparently, according to the reports, the news reports, made about $5 billion since he became president. The average person didn't understand that. You know, it's nuanced, it's business, it's like, when he violated the Hatch Act, you know, when he hustled Teslas from in front of the White House, this is a crime, 2 years in prison for violating the Hatch Act. But, you know, again, the average person didn't get that. But the average person gets who Jimmy Kimmel is. Everybody knows who Jimmy Kimmel is. Everybody understands what's going on with this and what's going on here. And everybody, I think, gets the shakedown aspect of this, that when CBS wanted to do a merger, I think I've been saying CBS with Jimmy Kimmel. I guess it's ABC. I've got to fix that in my daily take. But when it was Stephen Colbert with CBS, they wanted to do their merger and couldn't, or maybe I've got it backwards. Maybe that was ABC. But in any case, and now Jimmy Kimmel with his network, which I believe is CBS. It's just clear to people, you know, that they're essentially saying, you know, nice little network you got there, be a shame if something happened to it. And this is just dangerous stuff. And I think that the reason why I think that this is a turning point for America is because the average person can understand that. Oh, they're taking the comedians off the air because the president doesn't like what they're saying. I mean, you know, Trump came out and said it on Air Force One yesterday as he was flying home from England. They can't criticize me, or words to that effect. This is the moment. Here's the problem. Let me just back up a little bit. Here's the problem. The average person didn't know how to answer this question. The question is, how do you know when your country has lost its freedom? You know, the average person thinks that your country has lost its freedom when there's tanks in the streets and goose-stepping soldiers and they're hauling away Jews and stuff like that. But that's not typically how it happens, although, you know, for people in Washington, D.C., that's exactly what they're experiencing. But that's not typically how it happens. How it happens is when they shut down the comedians. Putin in 2012, as I recall, banned Putin puppets. There were puppets. There was a popular TV show that had puppets on it. It was a comedy show, and they had one of their puppets was a Putin puppet, and they made fun of Putin. And he outlawed it. And, you know, everybody gets that that's not something that you know, happens in free societies. In fact, there's let me find it here. Here we go. In Azerbaijan, if you criticize the leader, you can get up to 2 years of corrective labor. In Lebanon, if you criticize the leader, it's a $66,000 fine. In Venezuela, if you criticize the leader, you can spend 40 months in prison. In Poland, for a while, if you criticize the leader, 3 years in prison. In Turkey, 4 years in prison. In Cameroon, $42,260 in fines. In Bahrain, up to 7 years in prison. In Kuwait, permanent exile. In Thailand, up to 15 years in prison. In Iran, 74 lashes. In Indonesia, up to 5 years in prison. I mean, this is the company that apparently we're keeping? That you go to jail if you criticize the leader, or that you get, you know, you lose your livelihood, that you lose your life savings, that you get wiped out, that you can't be on the air, you can't broadcast? I think the average person is right now looking at this going, whoa, this is not what I signed up for. You know, Jimmy Kimmel made fun of Joe Biden. Joe Biden never threatened him. He made fun of Barack Obama. Barack Obama never threatened him. This is what comedians do. They speak truth to power. There's a reason why back, in the days of kings, there were court jesters. The court jester was the one person in the court who had the absolute legal right to ridicule the king and to make jokes about the king. Why? Because the king needed to know what the average people were saying. The king needed to know what people were thinking. This was kind of the relief valve. This was where they understand, where the king and the leaders of the kingdom understood what was going on. That tradition continues, but it sure looks to me like it's on the edge of vanishing. And if it vanishes, America isn't going to be America anymore. This is such a dangerous, dangerous moment. An attack on Jimmy Kimmel is something everybody can understand, and that's why I think that we're genuinely at a turning point.